Good morning, Chicago. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective. I'm your host, Linal Harris, your very own life coach right here on WVON 1690 AM, the talk of Chicago. Inspirational Perspective on your radio is all about murdering mediocrity and living the best life possible. So as I ask you every Sunday morning, are you living the best life possible? And this is the place to be to explore that opportunity. Good Sunday morning, everybody. February 24th, 7:08 a.m. on the Talk of Chicago. Man, I can't believe that next week is going to be March. 2019, let me tell you something, man. If you're not living with intention, time will just escape you. And you will wake up one day wondering, what have I done? What have I done with my life? Now, if you're listening this morning, you're a regular listener, well, that's probably one of the reasons you listen, so you can live with intention versus living by default. Because I'm going to tell you something, I can only imagine that there is no worse feeling than realizing that you have squandered your life, you have squandered opportunity, and that you have missed your potential. But if you're here this morning, the idea is that we all reach our potential, that we all experience and have the opportunity to step into our greatness. And that's why I do the work that I do. And it is part of what I want to talk about this morning. What I want to talk about this morning is, one, why I hired my first coach. I'm going to walk you through the process. Okay, why I hired my first coach, and then why and how I became a life coach. Now, when I was away on vacation, this is the beautiful thing about taking pit stops. Because when I was away on vacation, I realized that I was listening to a very old show. Now, this is what happens when you're on an island where basically everything shuts down by like 9 p.m., right? So I had a couple of options. And by the way, there was no internet in my room. So I thought I would talk to my wife before dinner when she was going to sleep, right? And it was like maybe about 6 o'clock there. And then I would have dinner, read, and then, after a while, you can only do so much reading. Then I started going through the archives of some of my shows. Just, looking at the titles and saying, oh, let's put this one on if I had a guest or something like that. One of the shows I came across was a show where David Anderson was in the studio, and he interviewed me and basically asked me questions about my life. And I realized that since I've been on Sunday mornings, which has now been a bit over a year, I haven't really shared much about me. So I share a lot about self-development. I share a lot about what's next, how to take on what's next in your life, how to go to the next level, Black identity, Africa, purpose, you name it. I've been teaching on these topics, but many people don't even know who the teacher is. I mean, like, on an intimate level. And during these times, I'll share more about myself. I tell stories about myself, but not in depth. And so this morning by the way, my 6th anniversary of being in radio, it's been 6 years. Thank you. I said, you know what? Yeah, turn up. Turn up by 7 a.m. on a Sunday. Right? But I said, you know what? I'm going to share a little bit about not necessarily my story, because I do think in order for me to adequately tell my story, you need someone interviewing you, because you leave things out that don't seem, necessarily as important to me as it may be to the audience. And so maybe at some point when I'm away again, what I'll do is share that interview with me and David Anderson with all of you. So that's one thing. But yes, 6 years on the radio, and let's start there. 6 years on the radio. Now, How did that I get the question from people who are looking to get into radio. How did you get into radio? And I'm not going to start with, the first conversation I had with Melody Span Cooper, or the first conversation I ever had on the airwaves of WVON, and how that opened the door. I'm going to start with a leader years ago who told me that I would never be a leader because I could not adequately communicate. Now, some of you may have heard the story before. But Linal, you won't be a leader because you can't communicate well. Hey, London, tag me in that. He's doing the Instagram thing in the studio. Like, yeah, man, it's a social world. Yeah. But, and by the way, we're streaming live on Facebook, so thank you, and good morning to all my Facebook listeners and watchers. But he told me, you'll never be a leader. Now, here's the thing. From the time I was a child, I remember being in church and watching pastors in the pulpit, or watching people who led the services, or going to other events where people led. I was always attracted to leaders. And I knew that I wanted to be a leader, right? So imagine somebody telling you something like that. And by the way, he didn't tell me you'll never be a leader. He gave me an idea of the impediment that was in the way of my ability to be leader, right? And that was communication. You can't communicate. And I credit that leader with how I got a radio show, right? Because here's what happens, right? I talked to somebody recently who had a similar dream, and they really struggle with communication. And I told them, I said, look, it doesn't matter if you stutter. It doesn't matter if, you have, enunciation problems. If you have a dream, then you go after that dream with everything that you have in your being. Because one of the things I know about us as human beings is that we're resilient, and that we're learners, and that we can overcome almost any barrier that is placed in front of us. Now, when that leader told me that, and I knew I had a desire to be a leader, somebody on Facebook already wrote, you can't never let anybody tell you what you cannot do. And that's the truth. And if they say it, ask them why. Because typically they're pointing at something. They're telling you can't do something, and there's a why. And you need to understand the why, so then that way you can go after it. Because you can do it if you explore the why. And so, Linal, you can't communicate. Well, for months after him telling me that, I would sit and watch the evening news and repeat every word they said. And I tried to do it at the rate they did it at. Good evening. This is the 10 o'clock news. Thank you for joining us, right? And I would say it right behind them. And if there was a woman talking, I said it behind her. And, I used the inflection she used, the whole nine, right? There's a man talking, I said it behind him. And I used the inflection she used, because I was going to train myself as best as I could to communicate better. At the time, I was dating someone. It was way before I got married. So yeah, I did have a life. Thank God for a wife who understands that. So I was dating someone, and then I went to her, and I said to her, if you hear me say a word wrong, or if you notice that I botch a sentence, I want you to, one, point it out, and then I'm going to say that word or that sentence all over again. Now, mind you, I put her up to it. Now, any men who are listening, who are married or in relationships, y'all know I'm about to go. You ever tell your significant other to do something, and then, they go 100? Man, that's what she did. Now, I'm thankful, though. Right now, I was irritated. And I talk about this in my book, Slay Your Goals, around intentional accountability, how we can get irritated. Like, we set up some accountability, and then we get irritated, right, when a person begins to hold us accountable. But we have to remember the why, the what for. Why am I asking her to interrupt me when I'm talking, to make me say sentences over? Well, it's because I know that I have leadership competencies, and if communication is the one thing that's in my way, then I am going to slay this dragon. Period. I got an email some time ago, and I still need to respond. I started to write it, and I was like, I really want to think about this to make sure this person who sent the email really understands why I use the terminology I use. They were asking me, Linal, why do you say murder mediocrity? Why is it that we have to slay our goals? Why are you using such strong terminology? And why are you using these type of words? Couldn't there be something else? Well, yeah, there could be something else. One, I wasn't inspired, right? I wasn't inspired. An idea of something else didn't come to my mind. And what I have to do is, number one, trust my own genius. Talked about this to some young people on Thursday at the Gary Comer Center. Shout out to them if they're listening. But what I told them is each and every one of you in this room are geniuses. And your ability to realize your genius comes from the ability to trust that your ideas are genius. And not everybody's going to understand them. But if I trust that something was planted in me for a reason, and then I take it and I begin to form it, and it becomes something, and I nurture that, then later in life, that's when people say, Michael Jackson's a genius. What if he said, man, writing Thriller, nobody's gonna dance with zombies. Like nobody's gonna like what if somebody told him like, Mike, I don't know, man, the world is the 80s and everybody's about, big hair and pretty faces. What are you doing? Like, what if he said, oh, you're right. I'm not going to do it. I don't know what I was thinking. Right? Right? We would never have Michael. We would never have Thriller. Mm-hmm. And my son and I couldn't dance in the kitchen last night to it. Y'all get it? But my point is we have to honor our own genius. And other people may not understand it. So I digress. So I'm asking her to check my every word. I'm speaking. I'm speaking behind the television over and over again until I finally begin to shift this competence around my speaking. And that very same leader, and I'm gonna tell you something. We have to be careful about getting so offended so quickly. Because he told me I can't do something. In my mind, I was like, watch me. But I didn't get offended because what I was thankful for is that he told me the why. And I went and did something about the why. And that same leader is the person who promoted me into my first leadership role in corporate America. See, sometimes people are not always hating, man. They're just trying to tell us what they see. And they might not tell us right. But the question is, are you wise enough to decipher and look through the information that's being provided, grab the gems, and then hold on to that to create and do what it is that you intend to do? But that's how I got into radio. Now, there's some other pieces. But if I couldn't talk, if I couldn't communicate, if when I got my first opportunity to be on the airwaves of WVON, I was tripping over my words, and I was just a good writer but a poor communicator, because, by the way, I was interviewed because of my blog, right? So it's my writing that got me on the radio, but it was my ability to communicate that kept me on the radio. And by the way, communication was not something I was gifted in. I want to be clear. It wasn't a talent. And what I've done is I've made it into a strength. And here I am, 6 years later, on the air, and honored and privileged to be on the air. Grateful for the opportunity. Now let's talk about the first show. Because let me tell you what happens. When God opens a door for you, that's all he does, right? He opens the door, and then you have to walk through. And all too often, many of us, we have doors that are open, and we allow our fears to just hold us frozen on the threshold. And then eventually, every door closes. And so if you don't move past that threshold, that door will close on your face. And you don't have anybody to blame but yourself. No one to blame but you. And let me tell you why. Because when I got the opportunity to be on the radio, and by the way, it came through a series of conversations and follow-up. I had to follow up. I had to take action. I had to create things and say, here's what I would do. I had to believe in it, because when I presented the idea, there were people in the room who were like, I don't think that's going to work. Nobody, who's going to do self-development on radio? Nobody's going to listen to that. How old are you? And if I didn't believe that that is something I could provide, then those meetings would have left me wanting, left me questioning myself. But I went through a series of meetings, and then when everything got approved, I was told, all right, you got 3 weeks to prove yourself. I'm going to put you on Saturday evenings at 10 p.m. First thing I thought is, that's great. Nobody's listening. Right? So I can cut my teeth. I'm so serious, man. And so the week leading up to the first show, February 23rd was the first show. And February 23rd, 2013 was the first show. All right, so 6 years ago. And the week leading up to the show, remember, at the time, I was a corporate executive, okay? So I was in corporate America. I had leadership responsibilities. And one of the things that happens when you're a corporate executive is your life is no longer your own. And anybody who's a corporate executive, they understand this, right? Part of the reason executives get paid so well is because they want to be able to tell you what you can and can't do. Hey, wait a second now. What are you talking about on the radio? You can't do that. You're an officer of the company. We want to make sure that what you're talking about and what you're saying is aligned with the goals and the big rocks and the strategic initiatives of the company. And so I had the wherewithal not to tell them. I was like, I don't think I should tell them about this. But I was scared because I knew that there could be consequences. And here's the reason why I moved forward, even though I knew there could be consequences. I moved forward because I was very clear on my purpose. I was crystal clear on what I was looking to achieve. I'm going to talk about this in a moment when I talk about why I hired my first coach and why and how I became a coach. And I was very, very clear about my purpose. And I knew that this door did not open. Like, this door didn't open. I'm not a radio personality. I didn't go to broadcasting school. I'm like, this is a miracle. A miracle. Who cares if it's 10 p.m. on a Saturday night? It's a miracle. And if I don't walk through this door, I will be leaving something significant behind in my life. Okay, they can fire me. I can get another job. Is that scary? Yes. All week I obsessed about that. So much so, I almost got on the phone and canceled the show. But what kept me from allowing my fear to dictate my actions was my purpose. This is why I talk about purpose so much. Was my purpose. It was my purpose that pulled me forward, that called me forward, that challenged me. And it was at that point where I said, all right, I'm going to do this. Now, here's the thing. Then I made a choice to do it. And it didn't get easier because the executive producer of the station called me that Saturday and says, hey, we got a problem. We're airing a basketball game, a Chicago State University basketball game. And the game's going to go off early, but Salim Muwakil, who's on before you, won't be on. So we're going to need you to talk for 90 minutes. Now, yeah, I talked for 2 hours now. This is 6 years later. Okay. Now, I had prepared my content, right? I mean, I had wrote all week to cover that 60 minutes to make sure I was prepared for that 60 minutes. But now you're telling me it's 90 minutes? I don't have 90 minutes of material, man. Who's going to talk for 90 minutes? Oh, my goodness. I sure hope people call. Now, what I didn't know at the time is when you're doing self-development and you're asking people evasive questions about who they are, who they're being, how they show up, they don't call in. They don't call in and say, hey, Linal, that's a good point. You know, I lack self-discipline. How can I do better? You don't get those kind of phone calls. Okay, I didn't know that. I was thinking, people, show up and say, hey, man, I want some help, blah, blah, blah. Didn't happen. So that first show, man, I mean, talk about looking at the clock. That red hand, that red third hand, that little second thing seemed like it was moving so slow. And I'm going through my material. I know I'm running out. I got sweat dripping down my body. I mean, seriously, I sweat through 2 t-shirts. Sweat through 2 t-shirts. It was so bad because it was the wintertime, I had to take those shirts off and just put on the top sweater when I left. But I did it. And here we are 6 years later. And still enjoying the run, still enjoying the journey. And I have bigger goals. One of them I'll just share with you is that this show is nationally syndicated at some point because I believe it's not just Chicago that needs to hear it. It's not just the people who listen to WVON, but everybody on their Sunday morning drive should hear this type of content. And I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful for the platform. And I'm grateful for all of you who listen on a regular basis. And it's one of the reasons why I want to spend the next 90 minutes of the show sharing more about my story and answering any questions about my story that you all had. All right, good morning. How are you? You on the air? Do I got him? Uh-oh, locked it up. Uh-oh, good morning. How are you? How do you say your name? How do you say your name? Okay. All right. Well, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, brother. It's good to be on this show, man. Thanks for you letting me in. What I want to say first, brother, is this guy McCarthy that's running for mayor.
Oh, man, we're not talking about that, bro. Don't do that to me, man. No, we're not doing that. Come on, y'all. This is what I love about WVON listeners, though. We're talking self-development. I ain't thinking about McCarthy. Anyway, so... And with love, Brother Muhammad, but we're not doing that, man. You got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Mays Jackson, Perry Smalls, Cliff. I mean, you got all these people you can do that with. All right. This morning we're talking about how do we go to the next level, and so with love, like I said. Oh, okay. So, and I love you guys. I love VON listeners because you like, hey, I got something to say, and I don't care what you're talking about. This is what we're going to talk about. I love it, though, man. It's our people, and I love that about us. But I also get to say no. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I want to talk a little bit about why I hired my first coach. And part of the reason I hired my first coach, and let me set the context for you. So, at the time, I'm traveling the globe. I got a great job, right? I'm traveling the globe. I think I'm saying this because I think sometimes people think, well, I should get a coach because something's wrong. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. You get a coach because there's something specific you want to achieve, not because something's wrong. All right? And so I'm traveling the globe, and I got a great job. I'm doing work all through the Western Hemisphere and in different parts of the world. And And I learned that I'm transitioning to a new job. And in this new job, so before I was leading global operations for the organization, and in this new job, what they asked me to do was take over diversity for the organization. And initially, by the way, when the CEO asked me to take this role, I was highly offended because part of what I thought was, well, I'm one of the few black male executives and you all want me to pivot into a diversity role. And by the way, I was leading a business of $300 million, that was global. And now you want me to basically be based right here in Chicago, not get on planes anymore unless it's domestic, and lead a team of 7 with a $2 million budget. And I remember I called my mom and asked her, Mom, pray for me. I need to know what decision to make. Now, some people say, why would you even oscillate between the two? I had a lot of friends tell me, you know what, man, that's a dead end. If you take that diversity role, even though they're paying you more, even though you get a title, even though you get a promotion, it's a dead end. And I didn't get one person who offered advice who told me to take the job. Almost everybody said, don't take that job. You're an operations guru. People know you all over the globe. Don't do it. So you might ask, those of you who know I actually took the job, well, Linal, why did you take the job? And the reason I took the job is I remember the day I called my mom, told her what was going on. I asked her, just put a word of prayer up, man. I want to make sure I'm making the right decision. I don't want to discount something, turn it down, or do anything wrong. And so she said a small prayer on the phone. And after I closed my eyes, and when I opened my eyes, I was standing in front of my vision board. And on my vision board was my purpose. And right there on my purpose, it basically spelled out to me that my purpose is to help myself and others live the best life possible. And I realized that I had hit a ceiling in terms of my ability to do that in my current role. And that in my life, it wasn't going to be about how big the budget was, how big the team was, whether or not I'm traveling the globe and I have a huge expense account. But it was going to be about the impact and the alignment to my purpose. And right then in that moment, I had my answer. I didn't necessarily like the answer. Let me tell you something. Often the path that we have to take in life, if you're aligned with your purpose and you're doing what your purpose says, you're following your purpose as your life's compass, you're not going to always like some of the directions that your purpose leads you because it's leading you down a path to get you where you're supposed to go. Okay? Let me tell you something. I would not be on the airwaves if I hadn't taken that job. Because it was that job that allowed me to be present here in Chicago so that I can get on the air when I was still working. If I was still doing global operations, I wouldn't have been able to take an opportunity like this because I was always somewhere else in the world. Nor would I have met my wife, nor would I have my son. Anyway, you get the point, right? Your purpose, even when you don't like the next road, the next fork, you're looking at that fork in the road and there's one and it's beautiful. The path is paved and there's another one and it looks like nobody's going that way. Everybody's telling you not to go that way. It's the wrong decision. But if you're looking at your life's compass is pointing you that way. And it is imperative that you follow the right path. So I went down this path and I began to realize that I didn't have the skills to be successful in this role. Before operations is a hard skill set, right? It's all numbers and there's, leading in diversity is a soft skill set. You have to be able to influence and persuade peers. You don't have power. You're trying to present business cases that don't necessarily have tangible numbers attached to them. They're more about how people feel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I realized I needed a new skill set. But not just that. I was curious about what I didn't know about my own development and about some of the opportunities that I had as a leader. And so I started doing research on executive coaching. And as I'm and this is important, right? Because many of us, we need help. And we know we need help, but for whatever reason, we don't go get the help. Like, we need help. You need a consultant in your business. Like, I don't know a business yet that has grown without some sort of internal investment. But let me keep going. So I knew I needed more soft skills, the ability to persuade, influence without power. I knew that there was many things I didn't know about senior leadership. And I also knew that I wanted to take my life to the next level. I had just pivoted, taken a new position. And even in all of that, I had opportunities. I knew my health and well-being wasn't in a place that it could be. It could be better. I was a serial single. What I mean by the serial single is I was never ever really in a relationship. Okay, I might have had a girlfriend or two, but if you ask me, Linal, are you single? I'm like, yep. Because I knew there weren't people that I wanted to commit myself to, nor did I know how to commit. And I knew it. I knew that something wasn't right in that arena of my life when it came to relationship. I also knew that when it came to my work, that I was doing the best that I could, but that I had opportunity. And I definitely knew that when it came to my money, I was not handling my money the way I should. What do I mean by that? Is I was making great money. I had a nice amount of money coming in, but there was a lot of money going out. And I wasn't managing it. And I knew I wasn't managing it. And I knew I needed help. Not from a financial advisor, but somebody that can help me intrinsically in terms of my relationship to money. All right. The next thing is I knew I had a purpose, but I didn't necessarily know how to execute on that purpose. And so I said to myself, well, I need some help. Well, right about the same time, I got a LinkedIn message, because when you start, you know how it is, when you start looking for something and then it comes to you. I mean, this is how it always is. So I got a message from a young lady who was a part of a program, and she said, hey, this is a coaching program, and we'd like to invite you out to observe how coaches get trained. And so I thought to myself, wow, how coaches get trained. I'd love to see that. And it was on a Saturday morning. And I remember this well because I played basketball on Saturday mornings. And so when a young lady sent me the time, she said, well, it starts at 10 a.m. I said, well, I play basketball at 8. We don't finish till about 10. She said, well, how bad do you want to be there? I said, well, I'm going to break my routine for this. So I went and played ball, but I left early. And I came into this observation. I didn't know people were going to be dressed real nice. I didn't ask about dress code. I just came into this observation with a sweatshirt on and a pair of jeans after having worked out. But I was there. And let me just stop there. Because what I'm finding nowadays, and I found this before when I was doing workshops, it is incredibly difficult to get people to step outside their routine to invest in themselves. It is incredibly difficult to get people to step outside of their normal routines. And I hear hey, a lot of times I go, it's not worth it, blah, 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 blah. But I would challenge you. There is someone, whether it's me or someone else, that you believe is reputable, that you trust. And are you willing to disrupt your routine to get developed by them? But, you got to disrupt your routine. If you want to get better, you got to press pause sometimes. Murder Mediocrity Summit is coming up March 23rd. I remember last year's summit. We sold out, and I learned a powerful lesson, right? Because we sold every seat. I didn't want to have anybody show up without a seat, so I didn't oversell the venue. And let me tell you, little rain came. Not icy rain. Wasn't even that cold that day. Wasn't cold rain. Just a little rain came. And a lot of people didn't show up. Why? Because it was taking them outside of their everyday routine, right? So we had about 20 seats open. And it was noticeable for me because I thought the pace, would be fully packed, but 20 seats open. And we had a phenomenal experience that day. But I knew right away when I woke up that morning, it was raining. I said, this is going to get in somebody's way. Little resistance is going to get in somebody's way. I'm not going to go. I'll pay $50, $40, $60, $100 for the ticket, whatever they paid. I'm fine without it. And so because they didn't go, they didn't get something they were supposed to get. March 23rd is the next summit. You've been hearing me talk about, I'm going to talk about this in depth a little later, why I created the Murder Mediocrity Summit. But you've been hearing me talk about it. If you've gotten something from me on the air in the 15 minutes that you listen, the 30 minutes that you listen, the hour that you listen, the 2 hours that you listen, and you're available March 23rd, and you trust what comes out of my mouth, then you got to start asking yourself a question, and what's the resistance to actually showing up for a day? What's the resistance? Because I can guarantee you that it's intrinsic, and the reason why the resistance is there is because there's a part of you that doesn't like change. And that part of you says, man, if you go, something's going to have to change. But isn't that the idea? Isn't that the idea that we're constantly changing and transforming and getting better? Getting better is change, folks. So I'm telling you, I'll talk more about the summit, but if you're interested right now, go to murdermediocrity.com, grab your ticket. You can get it for $40 off using the code 40 off. It keeps going up. Grab it now. But so I went to this observation, and the process for me hiring a coach, there was resistance at every step I took. Every step I took. This is why when people call me from coaching, I always say, this is not going to be an easy process. Because when you're looking to transform your life, there's going to be resistance at every step you take. So I didn't really want to go on Saturday, but I did. I showed up. I got there a little late. Y'all know how we do. And then I realized that they started on time, right? Because there's only 2 brown people in the room. Well, 3. It was an Indian guy. So I got there about 10:15. But anyway, what I witnessed transformed my perspective on coaching. Here were people having honest dialogue about their lives, like challenging each other in terms of how they showed up with themselves, with their health and well-being. You said that you were going to lose 5 pounds last week. What got in the way? I was like, who says that to somebody? Wow. Right? But these are coaches talking to one another. And it was dialogue I had never heard before. You declared you'd be in a relationship. What actions are you taking to be in a relationship, to create relationship in your life? I'm sitting there, I'm writing notes copiously, man. I'm like, this is amazing. These people are talking. Like, people fight for talking like this where I'm from. But it was a level of honest dialogue that pulled me in. What's not working for you with money? Was one of the questions I heard at that table. It sounds like you're always broke. What's not working for you with money? I was like, man, can you imagine if that cousin called you for $20 or for $100 like they always do, and you just said, you know what? What's not working for you with money? Why you always broke? They'd be ready to fight. But one of the things that coaching does is it opens up that defense, that self-defense layer, and you have to be open. You're saying, hey, I want to be developed, and so this is a question that I should be thinking about and I should be asking myself. And so I sat in that room and I was blown away. I was like, man, wow. One, how do I learn that competence to ask questions with altitude that powerfully? But two, what would it look like if I was in a conversation like that with someone all the time? Like, what would transform in my life? And so at the end, they said, well, if this is something you're interested in, you need to make a 1-year commitment. You need to be willing to work with a coach for 1 year, and then show up 1 weekend out of every month. That's a Saturday and Sunday, all day, so you can learn these competencies for 1 year. And there's going to be a plethora of other things throughout the months that you're a part of this program that we're going to ask you to do. Right away, the first thing that came up for me, and this is one of the things that I transformed through this program, but it was like, I don't have time for that. Now, I can't even tell you what I was doing at the time, what made me think I didn't have time. It's just like I wanted to run my own agenda. I don't want to have a commitment where I got to show up somewhere, 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday and be here all day. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going on in my life. I don't want that. And they asked me, they said, well, if you don't make this commitment, what are you leaving on the table? And I wasn't clear. So they invited me back for a workshop. And so I came back the next day. So again, right, another step I had to take. I came back the next day. It wasn't on my agenda, wasn't on my schedule, but I came back. I didn't want to, by the way, but something told me I should. So I came back the next day, and I walked into this workshop, and it was me and one other gentleman. So right away, I was like, oh, man, they got a workshop. Ain't even nobody here. But what happened in that workshop was absolutely amazing, because in that workshop, they began to ask me one simple question. And they asked me this question about the 4 critical areas of my life. This is what I call the 4 pillars now. They asked me, Linal, what's possible in your health and your well-being? And at the time, I'm a corporate executive. I had that little rubber bubble around my waist. Y'all know what that means. You know what I'm talking about. I could hide it good, when I stood up, and, when I went out on dates, I knew how to suck it in. But I knew I wasn't in the best health. At the time, I was I drank more than I should drink. And I did that because of the stress at work, and, just to kind of relax. I told myself I'm relaxing at night. But it's not who I wanted to be. It's not what I was dedicated to. And so the possibility I created was, I want to be in the best health that I can possibly be in. I'm a young man. And I want to be able to take advantage of that. They asked me what was available or what was possible in relationship. And I told them love. I said real, true love with one woman. I said, I believe it's possible. I just don't know how. And they asked me what's possible in terms of work and money. And I said, I'm clear on my purpose. I know what I want to do. And long term, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be able to self-sustain. And not just that, I want to deliver on my purpose and provide a massive impact. And they said, well, what does that look like, Linal? And I said, I want to do something called a Murder Mediocrity Summit. Now, mind you, this is almost a decade ago. I said, I want to do something that's called a Murder Mediocrity Summit. They said, what's that? I said, this is where I would bring people together in a large room, and we would talk about life, and we would talk about how to take life to the next level. Now, mind you, I had this vision before I was ever a coach. This is something that's been in my spirit for years. Murder Mediocrity wasn't a brand. It wasn't trademarked. All it was an idea that I had on a piece of paper. An idea I had on a piece of paper that I was scared to publish because I didn't want anybody to steal it from me. And so they said, well, what does that look like? And I said, well, people would come and they would get inspired, And this summit is going to be different from other summits. It's not just going to be about motivation and inspiration, but it's going to give them tangible tools, tangible ways, opportunities to commit to taking their life to the next level. And, we talked about purpose. We talked about a few more things. But what got clear to me is that I didn't know how to do that. I had this possibility inside me. I had these ideas inside of me. I had this dream inside of me, and I didn't know how. And they were telling me, hey, man, it's okay. You don't have to know how. All you have to do is create a simple action plan and take the first action you see, and that's what a coach will help you do. Are you willing to sign up? Now, here's the part. I was willing to sign up. What I wasn't willing to do was to pay the money to sign up. How many been there? And let me tell you something. This is a place where if you really want to take your life to the next level, you are going to have to transform. You're going to have to transform your relationship to money. Money is a tool, like any other tool. And if you misuse the tool, then you will not get everything that you can from the tool. If you use the tool appropriately, then that tool will give back to you exponentially. I'm going to tell you right now that this program didn't cost $1,000. It didn't cost $5,000. It didn't cost $10,000. It was in the five figures. It costs more than that. I just bankrolled, put my bonus in my savings account. All right. Remember, I'm an executive, but I wasn't spending my money right. And I just put my bonus in the bank account. And basically they were saying, Linal, give us your bonus. Are you willing to take your bonus and bet on yourself that you can use this program to grow and then turn that bet into profit? Let me ask you a question. The Murder Mediocrity Summit is what? $60 now? It's $57? $57. If you go to the website, it's $57. Like, are you willing to take $57 and just say, you know what? I listen to this man every week. And maybe he's putting together something that's going to move me forward. Maybe just in one place in life. But if it moved you forward in just one place, would that be worth $57? Like if you walked in there and it transformed something around your health and well-being, where a year from now, you're unrecognizable, you lost weight, you feel good. And it was just one thing you took from the summit that Dr. Terry Mason said. Would that be worth it? Would $57 and 8 hours be worth it? Especially if it extended your life for another decade, for another 2 decades. Because that's part of my why. I want you to live a better life. I want you to go to the next level. So they gave me the price. Let me tell you what happened. So I sat there and I started to hem and haw. I'm be honest. I started to hem and haw. And they pointed me at something. They said, Linal, do you believe that you can create the Murder Mediocrity Summit without this support? And I looked at them. And I said, I don't. And I'm like, do you believe that by creating this summit, that you'll be living your purpose, and that when you are able to deliver this summit, that you will be living a life that you could be proud of, a life that is fully aligned with the possibilities you created in this workshop today? I said, I do. It said, so are you going to let your resistance to pay this money steal from you all the possibility that you've created in the last couple of hours? I said, no. How much do I need to put down? All you got to do is put down $675. So, okay, I could do that. So, gave him my credit card and put down the $675. I was walking to the parking lot. When I got in the parking lot, I got in my car And I said, what just happened? Did I just enroll in something that cost that much money? And this is literally what came to my mind. I said, man, you done let them white people get you. They done robbed you. And I sat in the car and I pulled out my credit card and I turned it over. And I started to dial that 800 number to tell them that somebody had took my card, man. Because I didn't have the heart to tell them I didn't want to do it. And I was scared that, this investment wasn't going to pay off. And something quiet in my spirit said, put that card up. You got to learn how to trust yourself. And if you trust yourself and you go through this process and you do it with integrity, your life will change. And let me tell you something. I'm going to talk about what happened on the other side in the next hour. But man, I sit here today. I'm so happy I put that card up. I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful I put that card up. I'm so happy I spent that money. I am so excited I made that investment. Because if I hadn't made that investment, my life wouldn't be my life today. It would be completely different. And I'm scared of what it would look like. And this is the reason why I push you all every Sunday and why I tell you and I do everything that I can to get you to invest in yourself. Top of the hour, I'm going to tell you what happened. But for now, if you get this, register for the summit. MurderMediocrity.com. Go there, register for the summit, because for $57, I'm trying to give you what they gave me for so much more. When we come back, how my life transformed after I got a coach and why I created the Murder Mediocrity Summit. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective. I'm your host, Linal Harris, your very own life coach, right here on WVON 1690 AM, the talk of Chicago. Well, I shared a bit of my story to start off the first hour. How I got introduced to coaching. Also talked about this is my sixth year on the air, 6-year anniversary, and incredibly excited, forever grateful for this opportunity to share the airwaves and to be supported by each and every one of you. So thank you for all of you who've been listening. Many of you who've listened the entire 6 years, and you've witnessed my maturation on the air. I appreciate you for sticking in there with me. All right. Emmanuel, good morning. How are you? Emmanuel, you there? I'm well.
Years I've heard Perry sing the praises of you to the highest, and I respect Perry quite a lot.
Okay.
And I heard you say how you got over some of your impediments, particularly the one involving the ability to speak, and it inspired something in me right away, or it made me think how I have allowed something to keep me back like all my life. And I hate it, but I admit, I'm 60 years old, and I admit that I have allowed mathematics to hold me to a certain level of mediocrity, and it bothers me, and it's always bothered me. But you know what, man? I'm back in school now, learning a new trade, and once again, mathematics has raised its ugly little head, and it's kind of holding me back from advancing. So I want you to know I'm here. I'm listening to you, and this is the first time I've listened to you for some extended length of time, and I gained a lot of respect for you in this short, I think 35 minutes I've been listening to you.
Oh.
So I want you to know I'm glued in. I can hop in my car and drive, but I'm still going to listen to you as I drive. And thank you for being on the air.
Yep. And Emmanuel, let me say this to you before you hang up. So one, I want to acknowledge you, because not many people will share an opportunity openly. But here's why it's so important, and here's why it's powerful. when you share something like that openly, it creates an opportunity. And I don't know who's listening that can help you. But if someone can help, I would challenge them to call in and share it. But here's the other thing. Because you know, so half the battle is knowing. Coaching, the first part of coaching is about awareness. And because you know what the impediment is, then the next challenge would be, how do you address it with the gradient? And what I mean by with the gradient is, I don't know where you are with mathematics, but wherever you are, how can you begin to develop where you are right there? And just take small steps every day, right? Where you're developing that competency. And believe it or not, if I can turn my speaking into a strength, you can turn mathematics into a strength. And there are many people who have done their best work on the north end of 60. And so, you know, I believe that regardless of your age, that you can develop yourself, take yourself, and if God blesses you to see 70 a decade from now, you'll be so excited and happy about your ability to develop in that area and the contributions that you could be making as a result of it. So, phenomenal phone call. Thanks for calling in. All right. So that was a great phone call. I mean, him saying that, and I'm happy that I inspired you, brother. That's the whole point of the show and the whole point of sharing. And that really sad. Well, thank you for that, and thank you for the acknowledgement. All right, so we finished the break, and I was sharing with you all how I made this decision, how I sat in the car, and I was going to call the 800 number on the back to cancel, and I made the decision. And it didn't just stop there, okay? Because when I decided to become a coach, and I started going through the coaching certification course, I got a coach. And so that came together for me. So learning to be a coach and getting coached at the same time, all right? And so I showed up on the first weekend. And let me tell you something. If you can find something wrong, like we can always, whenever we're challenged, whenever someone's pushing you, your ability to be critical of them is going to accelerate. I know that because of what I do on the air, because of what I talk about, because I'm a coach, I know that people are going to be hypercritical of me because I challenge their survival mechanisms on a regular basis. And it's okay. And the reason I know that is because as soon as I stepped into that coaching certification program, guess what was on hyper alert? My critique, right? Oh man, they couldn't pay for a bigger room. Oh man, this is how they dress. Oh man, how you gonna be a coach and overweight? Oh man, I mean, you get where I'm going? Like you get hypercritical. There's something about me right now that somebody's saying, how he on the air and this is going on, or that's going on, or he said this, or he does that, or he dances a Thriller, or whatever it is, right? I mean, hypercritical. Because people will always look for some type of distraction so they can avoid transformation. It's how we're wired. I'm gonna tell you something. If you're hypercritical of someone, if there's somebody who you find yourself always looking at trying to find something wrong, you need to be listening to what they're saying. Because this might just be the person who has what you need. I find myself often resistant to certain people, and those are the conferences I go to. Like the person, I've dragged my wife to many of this guy's conferences, but he irritates me. Something about him just irritates me. And I'm like, that's who I need to learn from, because I'm so critical of him. I don't speak it out loud, but I know what I'm feeling, and that's who I need to learn from. And let me tell you something. I've learned the most. I've transformed my business going to this man's conferences and being at his summits and listening to what he has to say. You know, he'll send an email and say, I got this new podcast. I think he's dorky. That's probably what. I don't like him. But he'll be like, I have this new podcast, y'all. I'll be like, whatever. I need to listen to it. You feel me?
Yeah, I feel you.
Because I understand how my survival mechanism works. What's your survival mechanism? Your survival mechanism is the thing inside of you that doesn't want to change anything. And I already know there's some of you who are hypercritical of me. I didn't return your phone call. I didn't return your email. You know how many phone calls I get? You know how many emails I get? I do the best that I can. I'm human. My number one focus isn't you. My number one focus is my wife. Is that okay? And my son. Is that okay? And then after that, my business, so I can take care of my wife and my son. Is that okay? And then my heart is with you. I promise you. Right? Reach out again. Email again. But I already know. Hypercritical. I'm not going to his summit. He can't even do this right. Hypercritical. But it's the thing that gets in the way of our success and our progress. So anyway, I went into the room. I was hypercritical. Long story short, about 3 months in, they were going around the room and they were saying, hey, everybody's playing a client game. They're getting hired by different people. And they said, Linal, you getting hired by anybody? I said, no. And some of us do this too. We cool. We super cool. And this was me at the time. I was super smooth, super cool. I can't get excited about this stuff. I mean, even though it's life transformational, I'm not excited about this stuff. Hey, Linal, are you going to be coaching anyone? Why aren't you working on the client game? No, I'm not here to be a coach. I'm here for the development. I'm just here to learn. and one of the master coaches came to me and said, after the session, said, let me tell you something. Don't get in your own way. You have a gift for coaching. We've seen you coach because you had to do it in front of everybody, right? And you have a very natural knack. And I don't know what's in the way of you just taking a step. Maybe you don't want to fail in front of everybody. Maybe you don't want to say, yeah, I'm playing this client game and not get a client, whatever it might be. But don't let that get in your way. And I thought about that for the rest of the month before I went back. And that's when I made the decision that I was going to be a coach. And let me tell you why I made that decision. I made that decision, one, because my purpose was aligned to it. Help myself and others live the best life possible. But I also made that decision because at this point in my life, the coach who I had hired was transforming my life. Let me give you some examples. When it came to my health and well-being, we had already identified that part of the reason why I was struggling with my health and well-being was because I had this story about health and being healthy that it had to be hard. And he had already began to challenge my thinking around that area. Like, why does eating healthy have to be hard? Why does working out have to be hard? And, I started thinking, I'm like, well, everybody says it is. Like, there's a narrative in our society that most of the things that are good for you have to be hard. But are they? Like, is it really hard to eat right? Or is it what's hard about eating right is the shift and the ability to be disciplined enough? But he began to really challenge my thinking in these areas, and I began to see results. Like now, I was, I stopped drinking because, like I told you, I was drinking more than I wanted to. Not a lot, but I was drinking more than I wanted to. I stopped drinking. I started meditating, and I was seeing these results. But here's the other thing: in the area of relationship, I had declared that I was going to transform my relationship to women, and what I didn't know at the time is I needed therapy. So one of the things he would say to me is, Linal, this commitment stuff that's going on, you might want to get underneath it and better understand why you feel the way you feel. And then he would mention a therapist. And every time he did that, I'd be like, man, I don't need no therapist. Ain't nothing wrong with me. And by the way, having a therapist doesn't mean something's wrong. It just means that there's something that needs to be healed. Something that's been disrupted in your life in a particular area, and there's an opportunity for you to address it and to heal it. So then once the wound heals, you can function properly. I mean, think about if you had a gash in your leg. You wouldn't walk around with the gash in your leg for the rest of your life. You would go to the doctor. You would go see somebody about that gash in your leg so that way you can get it healed. And then once the gash is healed, you can walk whole again. It's no different. So I began to see these different things in my life, and my life started to transform. My relationship to women started to transform. But here's the big thing. Y'all remember how much money I spent? I didn't tell you the number, but I spent a lot of money. And one of the things that we worked on in coaching was my finances. And one of the projects he gave me was very simple. And I would challenge all of you all to do the same thing. He said, I want you to identify where you spend money this week. Write down where you spend money all week long, whether it's a bill, whether it's gas, whether it's groceries, whether it's a restaurant. Just watch how you spend money and whether or not you intended to spend the money that way. See, many of us don't even know our automatic way of being. We don't know our automatic way of being with ourselves. We don't know our automatic way of being in a relationship. We don't know our automatic being at work. And we definitely don't know our automatic way of being with money. What do I mean when I say that? Who you're being or how you're functioning in that area of your life. So I started being careful. Like I started writing down how I was spending money. And then it made me super curious. It was like, if I spent money like this in 1 week, how am I spending money in a month? And so I started looking at what I was spending in a month. And I started looking at where my money was going. Now, mind you, I never watched television, but I was spending $200 on cable. It was like weird stuff, right? And I'm looking at all this. And here's what happens for my people who make good money. People who make good money waste a lot of money. And the reason I know is because you make good money and you don't got a lot of money. I'm going to let you sit with that. People who make good money, most of you who are making over 6 figures still have financial issues. And the reason you have financial issues is because you haven't addressed your money issues. Giving somebody money don't make them rich if they don't have a rich mindset, right? And so I began to realize that I didn't have a rich mindset. I had money going out here, money going out there, money going out everywhere, right? And all of a sudden, I started to plug holes financially. And as I plugged these holes financially, I realized that expensive program that I didn't want to be in was paying for itself. I had so much money going out a month that now the monthly cost of the program, I could just put that towards it. I'm gonna let y'all sit with that. Now, everybody's not in the same financial situation. I'm talking to the people who out here with big houses and big cars making over 6 figures a year, and you still sitting at the table paying bills with your hands in your head. That shouldn't be. That shouldn't be. Something's wrong. You need to come to the Murder Mediocrity Summit and sit through the working money section. All right? That shouldn't be. But this is how coaching began to transform my life. Many of you hear me on Sundays and you say, oh, Linal's got it all figured out. Linal don't have it all figured out. I don't have it all figured out. What I do is I share in the areas that I do know. And then as I grow, I share in those areas too. And sometimes I share in the areas of most growth, where I need the growth. I'll write a whole show, and it's not for you. I wrote it for me. And I'm delivering it as if it were for you. But as I'm saying it, I'm thinking to myself, I have to do this. And then Monday morning, when everybody else is doing what they're doing, I'm listening to my own show again so I can get my stuff together. So I'm not claiming perfection. But what I will tell you is that I'm dedicated to my purpose. I'm dedicated to going to the next level. I'm dedicated to taking anybody else who wants to go to the next level with me. That I can assure you. But it's not perfect. Now, long story short, because of coaching, I'm in the best physical condition that I've been in the last decade and a half. I mean, this 42-year-old Linal could whip the 32-year-old. Could whip him. Y'all hear me? Because of coaching. Wouldn't be this way otherwise. I'm telling you it wouldn't be. Okay? But every year, I've been working, this past year I worked with 3 coaches. I'm working with 3 coaches again this year. And the reason why is because when I experienced transformation on one level, I said, you know what? I want to get transformation on this level. Because I can't afford not to. I understand how important it is. My relationship. I'm married. Anybody, you talk to any of my boys from back in the day, that in itself is a miracle. But not only am I married, I'm happily married. I love my wife, and my wife loves me. At least that's what she told me last night. Okay? So, I'm happily married. This is coming from a man who didn't know how to commit. I listen to men all the time talk about, oh, it ain't no good women and this, that, and the other and blah, blah, blah. And it's, hey, bro, it's time to do some work on you. And when you do some work on you, the right woman will come. The right woman will show up. Hey, sisters, oh, it ain't no good man. Oh, I can't, these guys, all they do is play games, blah, blah, blah. Oh, let me tell you something. Start doing some work on you. Do some work on you. Take yourself to the next level. The right man will show up. Mark my words. One of the reasons why y'all get so many people that play games is because you're still playing games in life too. And it might not be in the area of relationship, but you're playing games somewhere. And that's why people who are joking around and playing games show up. Period. You're attracting them. You're bringing them to you. You're bringing them right to you. Hey, come here. I don't love myself. Come here. Take advantage of me. Hey, come here. I lack confidence. Come here. Take advantage of me. Come here. I need more help around my health and my well-being. I'm not willing to invest in myself. Come here. Take advantage of me. And then you're showing up like a victim. No. Own your life. Own your life. It's too much information out here now. Too many people teaching you how to be confident. Too many people teaching you how to love yourself. Too many people teaching you how to take care of yourself. And if you won't, and if you don't, it's because you don't want to. And everything that you get, you're attracting to yourself. You got to start taking some personal responsibility. It's imperative. You need to start taking responsibility. Oh, ain't no good man, ain't no good woman. No, start taking personal responsibility. How do I know? Because I was one of those guys and I could sniff you out. I knew you didn't love yourself. I knew it. All right. So my point is, we have to take care of self first. And then everything else comes, right? A year after I hired my first coach, I got promoted to vice president and officer in my work. 1 year. I was the youngest vice president, youngest African American vice president ever in my company. Impossible. I don't have a bachelor's degree. When I tell you, see, here's what coaching does. You think about a laser. A laser is concentrated. And a laser will cut through anything because of the concentration. What coaching does is it helps you gain clarity on what needs to transform in your life and take action in the areas that matter in your life. And then when that begins to happen, boom, things start to transform. It is by far one of the best investments I have ever made in my life. And that's why almost a decade later, I continue to invest in coaches. I'm a coach and I have a coach. Once again, if you're thinking about getting a coach, certified ontological coach that has a coach. All right, so I see some people on Facebook saying you need a coach. Just, hit me up in the stream. Hit me up in the stream. I'll respond to you. If I can't do it, I can refer you to somebody who is competent that can. So that's how coaching transformed my life. And I thank God for it. I wouldn't have my wife. Let me tell you something. When I met my wife is an amazing woman. Amazing. I think she's gorgeous and beautiful and amazing, and she's an amazing woman. And I thank God for her. But when I met her, if I hadn't gone through coaching, I would have squandered that relationship. I already know it. And you know why? Because I would have been afraid. I would have met a woman that I knew I was going to love. And because, we don't like change, right? And I didn't know how to change, and I didn't have to support the change, I would have squandered that relationship. I would have done something stupid and squandered that relationship. But because I dealt with my issues first, when my wife came along, I was ready. I was ready. And because I dealt with me first, I gained an intimate knowledge of myself. And so when my wife came along, I knew she was the one. 2 months later, she was my girlfriend. 8 months later, she was my fiance. A year and a half later after that, she was my wife. I ain't throwing shade at nobody that's been in a 5-year relationship. I'm not throwing shade at you. I'm not. But let me tell you something. The better you know yourself, the better you know what's for you. And you don't have to test stuff out. You know. A lot of men out here, they're scared to move to the next level because it's change. It's change. So, and I would have done the same thing. Who knows? Pam might still be my girlfriend. Maybe that's where I would have messed up. I wouldn't even have my son. Maybe she might still be my girlfriend. I don't know if she would have stayed around that long. Maybe not. But this is what I'm saying, is because I knew who I was, and then I gained clarity on what I wanted to create. When I had the opportunity to create it, I didn't waste my time. It's like, let's go. Let's do this. I'm happy I did. So that's part of the reason. What I shared with you so far this morning is part of the reason why I created the Murder Mediocrity Summit. And for those of you who haven't already, you can go to murdermediocrity.com to get your tickets. Once again, you can use 40 off, the 40 off discount code, and you can get $40 off, makes the ticket $57. So if you don't know already, and you're just tuning in, my name is Linal Harris, and I help people do what they say they want to do or they're going to do so that they can live the life that they want to live. That's what I do as a coach. And let me tell you, if you've ever had any of these challenges, then the summit is for you. Like if you've ever been confused about where to start, maybe it's a particular goal. Maybe it's a diet or health. If you've been confused about where to start, when to start, how to start, the summit is for you. Maybe you have poor self-discipline. I hear people say that all the time. Like I'm horrible at self-discipline. Then the summit is for you because it's not necessarily self-discipline. Sometimes it's just the ability to organize a thought and an idea and to just take action. Take action. What separates the successful from the mediocre is just 2%. Just 2%. That means the successful person is just 2% more disciplined in many ways. So if you feel like you suffer from poor discipline, then the Murder Mediocrity Summit is for you. Or maybe you say, I'm just not consistent. I start things and I stop them. And I just want to learn how to be more consistent, Linal. Then again, the Murder Mediocrity Summit is for you. Now, some of us, we have a different problem. This is one of my problems. You're overwhelmed by your talents. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do that. Oh, that over there, I can do that too. And I can do it well. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I'm so good at that. Maybe I'll do this, or maybe I'll do that. You're overwhelmed by your talents. Then the Murder Mediocrity Summit is for you. Because one of the things we're going to talk about is not only how to live a life of purpose, but how to really, truly tune in on those talents and those passions aligned with your purpose to make you laser focused on that one thing or those two things that you should be delivering on that will transform your life, that will transform the life of other people. Murder Mediocrity Summit is for you. And let me tell you, the story I just shared with you, my story of struggle. I was same thing, overwhelmed by too many talents. I had very little consistency in the areas where I wanted to have consistency. Struggled with self-discipline. Linal, you're not going to watch TV tonight and then, sit on the couch till 1 o'clock in the morning watching television. Why did I do that again? Waking up the next day, going to work, tired, wondering why do I continue to do the same things over and over again? Why am I always in my way? And then when I wanted to start, confused about how to start, confused about where to start, buying books, reading the first part of the book, putting that book down, going to the next book, just confused about what it is I should be doing. And because I struggle with this, I struggle with finding a solution. And part of that solution I share with you was coaching. And so when I got a coach, all of a sudden I began to realize that, wow, I can do better. But not only did I find a solution there, I found it in my reading. I started going to conferences, saying, okay, I'm going to do all that I can that I'm learning at this conference. I started hitting up seminars. I started finding people who were addressing exactly what it was that I knew I needed, the areas of my life that I needed. And so as I started finding these solutions, I started getting results. And my health got better. There was a time in my life where I couldn't even imagine not eating meat. And now I have that kind of lifestyle. So I know what it's like to say I want to do something, but not know how to do it. And I also know what it's like to actually learn how to do that thing and not just do it, but do it well. I got married. The same man that struggled with commitment got married and is in a happy marriage. I became a business owner. I had no idea how to be in business. All I knew was that I had a vision that at some point in my life, I wanted to own my own. I wanted to do my own. I wanted to make money doing those things. And more than anything, I wanted to live my life aligned with my purpose. And because of the work I've done, I've been able to accomplish these results. And this is part of the reason why I put the Murder Mediocrity Summit together. Because I want to help you. I want to help you get the same results. And here's the thing. I know people struggle financially. That's why it's not $1,000. People tell me all the time, Linal, it's underpriced. That's not why it's not $500. Right now, it's not even $100. You can get it for 40% off, $40 off, $57. In the old world, many of us would have stayed stuck. Many of you have books inside of you, and even if you wrote the book would be unknown. Because in the old world, there were barriers. 100 years ago, you needed a publisher. You needed an agent. You needed some type of middleman. In the old world, 100 years ago, you had less access. But today, you can go directly to your audience. And this is one of the reasons why you can't sit anymore. You can't be on the sidelines anymore. It's time for you to step up. And you know it's time for you to step up. And this is a vehicle that will allow you not only to step up, but to give you the competence and the confidence to step into the arena that you're supposed to step in, whatever that's supposed to be. One of the myths that many of us tell ourselves is that we're not special. I'm not special. Linal, you're different. You know, yeah, I hear you, and you're an extraordinary man. But you got to remember the definition of extraordinary. It's nothing but extraordinary. I just did a few extra things. I'm an ordinary guy that's done a few extra things. And you're an ordinary person that can do a few extra things and be extraordinary too. If you are capable of average, you are capable of more than average. And I believe that. And that's another reason why I put this summit together, because I want people to walk in average and walk out capable of more than average and really turn the dial in their lives. Another thing is, we think that it's impossible to be rich. It's impossible to change our financial situations. I came from a home that, we had what we needed, but we weren't rich. I would have never believed that I could live on the level that I live today. I would have never believed that I can travel the way I used to dream about being able to travel, being able to afford a plane ticket anywhere in the world that I could go. I know many people have those dreams. Many times I talk to some of you. You say, Linal, I want to go to Africa. I just can't afford it. And I believe that if you put your mind to it, that not only can you go to Africa, you can go to anywhere in the world you want to go. If you just follow some of the simple things that we're going to teach you at the summit. Follow some of the simple things I talk about on the show. Another myth is that life is hard. And let me tell you something. If you're telling yourself on a daily basis that life is hard, then that's what life's going to be. You see, we make life. We make our lives what it is. We declare our lives. We say what we want in our lives. And these are the simple things that I'm going to teach you. Anybody who went to last year's summit, this is the first one. One of the things I realized is that we may have overwhelmed you with information. Learn from that. And the idea is to break it down this year into simple, bite-sized pieces so you can walk away with simple strategies on how you're going to transform your life. So the question becomes is not, are you going to be there, but can you afford not to be there? Normal people are living their best life every day. Normal people. All you got to do is get on Instagram. Not everybody on Instagram is insta-fooling you. Some people are really living their best lives. How did they do it? I can guarantee you that almost everybody that's living their best life said they got supported. I got support. I got a mentor. I found somebody who was doing what I knew, that doing what I wanted to do, so I can learn how to do it. Anyone living their best life, these are the people who show up to these conferences. When I go to these conferences and summits that I go to, everybody there is up to something. Everybody there is doing something phenomenal. Everybody there, doctors, lawyers who are looking to get out the medical game. They've worked hard in their respective industries and they have visions. They have things they want to accomplish. And now they're taking their dollars and putting it in that direction, investing in themselves. Normal people are living their best life. Why aren't you? Get this. More millionaires have been made in America in the last year than ever before. More millionaires. It's not a matter of it's impossible to do, folks. I said it before. The reason why many of us don't have the money we want is because we lack information, not talent, not brains, not wit, not beauty. We lack information. And all I'm looking to do is to create an experience, to create a platform that will produce the next millionaire in Chicago, that will produce healthy living, that will produce great relationships, that will produce people who know exactly what their work is, people who are excited about their work on Monday mornings, that will produce people who are doing work aligned with their purpose, and people who are living in tune with their spiritual power. And this is how these things happen. Your life is what you make it. So at the summit, here's what we do. The solution framework that we use is just to attack the 4 pillars of life. It's simple. There's nothing more important than your health and well-being. There's nothing more important for my wife than her health and well-being. I come second to that. If she's not well, she can't take care of me. She can't take care of our son. There's nothing more important. And many of you really believe you love your family. And I believe you do too. But you haven't tapped into the love that you can have for your family until you tap into the love that you can have for yourself. And that's how we start the day. Really taking you on a self-love transformation. Your health and your well-being. How are you treating yourself? But then, what's happening in your relationships? Because that's the second most important thing in life. And unfortunately, many of us have it the other way around. We think work is the most important thing. Everything's about work. Our health is hurting because of our work. Our relationships are hurting because of our work. Our finances, strangely enough, ironically enough, are hurting because of our work. And what comes first is you. Then what comes second is your relationships. That's why I've asked Love McPherson and Tony McPherson. They're going to be having an intimate conversation with me and you at the summit around how we can transform our relationships. We're going to be taking questions from people who sign up for the summit. There are going to be surveys going out, asking you questions about your health, asking you questions about your relationships. What do you need to know about relationships so you can get the help you need? Then, and only then, comes your work. And here's the thing. There's a strong, steady statistic that more people die on Monday mornings at 9 a.m. from heart attacks and from stress-related illness than any other time. And so what that tells me is many of us are doing work that we don't enjoy. We're doing work that we don't love, and we don't know how to pivot out that lane. Linal, you don't understand, but I have to survive. Linal, you don't get it. You know, you've been blessed. And that's true. And that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to impart to you what I know. I'm bringing people into the building to impart to you what I know. I'm bringing not just millionaires, but millionaires who have been right where you are. People who struggle just like you. I'm bringing them into the building so you can ask them questions, so I can ask them questions, so we can have an intimate conversation about work and about money and what it is that we need to do to organize our work, to be doing work that makes us come alive, that makes Monday just another day. Let me tell you, Monday's tomorrow, and I'm excited about Monday. I'm excited about the opportunities that I'll face in my work. Why? Because I'm doing work that's aligned with my purpose. And everybody has the capacity to do work that's aligned with their purpose. We just have to learn how. We lack the information. We lack the information for how we can turn that work into money. How we can turn that work into money that pays and sustains us. But not only sustains us, but creates legacy. A legacy that protects our families once we're gone. And then we'll talk about, that's the third pillar. The fourth pillar of life is your purpose and your spirituality. And if you don't know your purpose, then I'll have all the tools that will allow you to distinguish that purpose. I've written online courses, and one of the things we're going to do at the summit is we're going to take a deep dive into what it takes to know your purpose, but then what it takes to actually live your purpose. Because one of the reasons why many people who are clear on purpose aren't living their purpose is because they haven't figured out how to fully tap into their spiritual power. And the reason I know you haven't tapped into your spiritual power is because you continue to allow fear to dictate your decisions. And when you tap into your spiritual power is what moves you through those doors. What moved me past the threshold of the opportunity for this radio show was my spiritual power, nothing else. If I didn't know about my spiritual power, I would not be on the air because fear would have arrested me. If I didn't know about my spiritual power, I would have never left corporate America because fear would have arrested me. If I didn't know about my spiritual power, I wouldn't have started some of the businesses I've started, some of the things I've done. I wouldn't have declared some of the things I've done. One of the businesses I started, I said, this is the one business that's not making money. This is going to be the business that makes me a millionaire. Why? Because I understand the power of words and I know my spiritual power. But here's the thing. We have to be taught. And unfortunately, we go to school and we get a high school diploma. And we come out and we know mathematics and we know history. We know economics maybe. And then we get a bachelor's degree. And we know trigonometry and algebra and calculus. We know physics. We know biology. We know sociology. We know psychology. But we don't know how to live. No one's ever taught us how to take our lives to the next level, how to set goals, how to identify the talents that we have inside of us, and how to take those talents and use the spiritual power that God endowed us with to create and to navigate through the fear. Nobody taught us how to do it. And that's what this summit is about. That's why the name of it is Murder Mediocrity. Because it's time out for playing with mediocre. It's time out for just playing with the life you have. If you've been living a good life, it's time for you to slay a good life and step into your greatness. That's what this is about. Here's some of the mistakes that we've made. Many of us think that the best thing we can do is focus on one area of life. Well, Linal, I got a lot of things going, and right now you don't understand. I made a commitment to myself that I'm gonna focus on this diet. If I can just lose 10 pounds, then it's gonna help me clear my mind, and then I can move on to the other things. That's a mistake. That's a mistake. That's a common mistake. One of the other mistakes that we make is working with people who have no clue how to do the things that they're talking about. See, here's the thing. If I don't know it, I'm going to bring somebody in to talk about it. I don't talk about stuff I don't know. When I tell you what I tell you on this show, you can guarantee these are things that I've done. Somebody asked on Facebook earlier, well, how do you pick a good coach? You pick a coach that has done what you're trying to do. Not somebody who's trying to figure it out, but they've done what you're trying to do. This stuff is not rocket science, but one of the common mistakes we make is because we don't want to spend money, we go to the person, we go to the value add. We go to the person who's the value, who's the cheapest, who provides the discount. But you're working with someone who has no clue what to do, what they're trying to tell you how to do. Another mistake we make is being crazy critical. Last year, I talked to someone and they said, yeah, I didn't make the summit. I said, what happened? They said, well, when you first put it out, the venue was to be determined. And I thought, if he don't know where it is, I'm not going. We're too critical. And so we're missing out on our blessings. Somebody's there to help you and you're just critiquing everything that they do. Let me tell you something. When you're busy critiquing other people, that means that you're not being critical about your own development, because you can only focus on one thing at a time. Don't make the mistake of being too critical. Maybe it's time that instead of critiquing other people, you began to look at your life, look at how you're living, and say, what can I do better? How can I show up differently? What can I do differently that will transform my life, that will take me to the next level? Is this information for me? How can I use this information? I'm not worried about whether so-and-so heard this today. I'm not worried about if my mama tuned in today. I'm not worried about if my husband is really listening right now. What matters is that I'm listening and I'm going to apply this to my life. Don't make that mistake. And then here's the biggest mistake of them all. The biggest mistake, many of us make is the refusal to take action. Right now, you've been listening to me and you say, that sounds good, but I don't know what's happening March 23rd. I might have something to do. How about if you buy the ticket, that's what you'll be doing. Refusal to take action. Many people are sitting right on the precipice of their greatness, and what gets in the way is the inability to take action. One of the biggest mistakes I've seen. Talked to so many people. Linal, God told me to call you. They get on the phone, we talk about what there is to do, and then they stop. Refusal to take action. So here's the first thing to do. Purchase that ticket to the summit. Purchase that ticket to the Murder Mediocrity Summit. Yeah, you want to work with the coach. Maybe you want to work with me. That's great. Get the ticket. Start there. Get your gradient going. Figure it out. But take action in the area of life that you know you need to take action. And then after taking action in that place, purchase your ticket. MurderMediocrity.com. Again, the tickets aren't going to be this price for long. Don't wait till the week of. I'd love to see you at UIC March 23rd so we can continue this conversation about how to take your life to the next level. Well, this morning, I was full when I walked in, and I'm empty. I gave you what I got, and I'm hoping that you take this and you create for yourselves what it is for you to create. I have a passion to transform people's lives. That's my purpose. I said at the end of a lot of my shows that my purpose is your success. I'm not being facetious. I'm not saying it because it sounds good, but I've truly dedicated my life to the success of the people around me. I want to see our community be successful. I want to see our young people be successful. But it starts with us. It starts with those of us who are mature, who know what it is that we need to do to take our lives to the next level. And this morning, I just want to thank you all again for the opportunity of 6 years. And I want to thank you again for all the support you provided. And I say it every Sunday, but I'm going to say it, and hopefully you really take it to heart. But continue to murder mediocrity in your life. Slay your goals and stay inspired, because inspiration truly is a lifestyle choice. You've been listening to Linal Harris right here on WVON, your host for Inspirational Perspective and your very own life coach. Have a phenomenal Sunday, and thank you all for listening. Hey everybody, if you love what you just saw, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can get more inspirational content just like this right here on YouTube.